liter is technically not metric. I mean, it's kind of metric, but you know, we got a different name for it. So the next thing, because this is a part of the metric system and the most mathematics we're gonna talk about today. The next thing is thermodynamics, okay? Because everybody wants to know what that actually is. I have to concentrate real quick. Dynamics. Everybody wants to know what that is, and the general audience doesn't have a grasp of it. Nope. So what does thermo mean? Let's just start with that. Most of you already know it. Let's say you have a thermometer or a thermostat. All of those things just show you warmth, okay? How warm something is. So thermo means warmth. Dynamics is easier because dynamic is actually dynamic. There we go. Is used in English as well, in German as well, in pretty much every Germanic language, and that got some point of Latin influence. Dynamic means powerful or a force or something like that, power, force, or moving. So thermodynamics just describe the power and movement of warmth. Now we have one big thing to talk about, however. Warmth does not mean temperature, okay? We always associate it with it because we have a high temperature, okay? So it's warm, but it's not the same, okay? Temperature indicates warmth and it's a part of warmth. And you can calculate the warmth with temperature, but there is another more parts, because depending if the pressure changes or the temperature actually does not change, the warmth is always going to be different, and you probably have to use much more complicated formulas that will include enthalpy, entropy, and specific warmth capacities. But we're not going to talk about that because that's literally useless to us right now. Okay, so just remember, warmth does not mean temperature. My man needs to pee. All right. So, what are the actual laws of thermodynamics, however? We have 4 laws, okay? We have the first law, we have the second law, and the third one. But there is the 4th law, which is also called the 0th law, which came last. So it was the last law to be implemented, but it's called 0th law, all right? We're just gonna talk about them in order, like you would watch the Star Wars prequels that are going to appear in about 70 years. Or not the prequels, but in about 100 years, yes. So we're gonna start with the prequel law, the 0th law. All that little law says that everything is in a thermal equilibrium. What is equilibrium, Mr. Einstein, I hear you ask? It's very easy. Equilibrium is another one of those words that basically just mean balance, and they make you sound smarter than you actually are, okay? So if anyone ever says equilibrium, it's a sort of balance, okay? So the 0th law, does that work? Yes. 0th law says there's a thermal equilibrium if you have 2 states. You have the state of A and the state of B. And if they're in equilibrium, they are in an equilibrium, okay? And then you have the state of C. These are all systems. A is in a balance with B. B is in a balance with C. This means C is also in a balance with A. And that's all there is to it. If you have 2 systems that are in a balance, and there's a third system, and only one of them is also in a balance, everything is balanced. Everything is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Yes? So that's all there is to it. So the zeroth law just says, hey guys, everything has to be balanced. There can't be one that's like greater, more reactive, whatever. Okay? So the next one is the first law. The first law of thermodynamics has a very, very complicated formula. So I want you to pay close attention to the blackboard if possible. It's U, which stands for internal energy. Okay, U is Q, which is warmth, plus work. So we have internal is our internal energy. Let's put a little E here. Is warmth plus work. That's actually all there is to it. This is the main equation of thermodynamics. U is Q plus W. Internal energy is warmth plus work. And the first law.
Work with the E? Is that an E?
No. It's supposed to be an O. It's supposed to be an O. Work. Gonna turn Scottish. Work. Anyway, so this is the formula, and the first law describes that if you have an sealed system, okay, an enclosed system. In German, it's a little different. We have closed and enclosed, and I'm just gonna use sealed in English. Let's say we have a box, okay? This is my little box, and it's very nice and cubic, like before. And it's closed off. This is our sealed system. And no energy or no warmth and work can go in. It's just like ricocheting off, okay? There's no work going in, but also no work going out and no warmth going out. So the inner energy, U, is always going to be a constant. That means it's never going to change. So if you have a sealed system, an enclosed system where no energy can be transmitted inside or outside, okay, it's always going to be a constant system or a constant energy. So U is constant. We spell it with a C here, right? Not with a K like in German. We spell it here with a C. Yes, someone has a question. I'm very sorry.
No worries. In a way, and please forgive my limited understanding, the way you're describing this, it's almost like diffusion and osmosis with like salt water, kind of, with heat. Is that kind of how I understand this?
That's more into the biochemistry stuff, and I'm not very familiar, but you can, what I remember, you can somewhat imagine it like that. But what you keep in mind is even cellular walls are not fully sealed off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll always have some sort of warmth and work going in. So the energy is not going to stay constant. What you can compare it to the most is probably the universe. We don't really know it yet if it's a sealed system, but if the universe is the biggest thing there is, there can't come energy from the inside in. There's no energy coming from the inside, from the outside in, and no energy from the inside out. All right.
Okay, thank you.
So now we have the second law of thermodynamics, which is my favorite law of thermodynamics, if you can have a favorite law. And this is the direction, okay? Let's say we have a warm energy and cold energy. Would you say warm energy goes to cold energy, or the cold energy takes over warm energy? Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's say, okay, let's say cold takes over warm first. Okay, we have cold energy and warm energy. Let's put it like that, yes? And then you have a little glass. You have a little glass of water. and there's something in here. Yeah, gonna put it away a little bit so we can see better. And it's steaming hot. And you put a little ice cube in here. Yeah, so you have a cool drink. You put it in there. What is going to happen first? Cold energy takes over, and our steaming hot drink in the little becher, in the cup, is going to get cooler. But as we know from before, everything wants to be in equilibrium. So if cold energy takes over warm energy, that would also mean that everything is not going to be liquid at some point, because everything wants to be as cold as the ice cube, and it would freeze. Yeah, was there another question? Oh, I hate having... Oh, never mind. So everything would freeze. What would that mean further down the line? We have our little drink, okay, that's already frozen, and you forget about it, okay? You have a nice little house, you paid for it, it was a lot of hard work. Mortgage was all right, and we have a little frozen drink. At some point, because everything would want to reach an equilibrium, and we say cold energy takes over the warm, the whole house would start to freeze up, because everything would want to have the same energy levels, okay? Would want to be the same temperature. So this makes absolutely no sense if you think about it in that way, and I'm gonna explain to you in a bit how. So how it actually works, it's warm to cold, okay? So if you have a little glass with a drink and it's hot, and you have a little cube in here, now we have a little bigger version of our cube over here. Yes? So if warm goes to cold, warm will give cold energy, will give our cold system energy. It takes over. So it loses energy itself. It loses its warmth and will become colder. Yes, ice was invented yet by the great Iceman. Very nice person. I met him back then in CERN. Anyway, so imagine it like a stamina bar, okay? So you have the stamina bar of warm energy and it's full, but it gives it to the ice that has hardly any energy because it's so cold. It's not moving. So it's going to lose some of its energy and going to get colder. The ice is going to gain some energy and getting hotter. And then it will slowly start to melt. And then we will have a little half cube here. It's going to be a little puddle almost. There's another, just for you to have the full concept. If something turns from liquid, from solid to liquid, okay, there's warmth capacity. So there is a step where it takes even more energy to break down the structure of the molecules, okay? So it even has to put in even more energy to actually melt it. But that's nothing we need to talk about here. That's way too much into detail. I just want to mention it if somebody actually is interested in. But that's called warmth capacity, okay? So the warm one will give away its energy, and the cold one will receive energy, okay? Until our little cube is totally melted, and it's gonna be a little puddle. It's also gonna be fluid. And in the end, it will turn out that the glass and the ice cube, which is now water, yes, will have the same energy level. So we have warm, who started maybe over here, but now has it somewhere around here. Yeah. And the ice cube that started over here, down here, but now also has the energy over here. So it will be the same energy level and be in an equilibrium again. So it will always go from warm to cold, because if the glass would give even more energy to cold, would get even more energy, then the places would swap. Because now it's not the cold system anymore. Now it's the warm system, and the other one is the colder system. So theoretically, they would have to change directions again. So they will search a state of balance. And that's all what it's about. So the second law of thermodynamics is all about direction of energy, okay? So warm goes to cold. Now we have the third law. Very important one. If you remember from before, we have, well, third law, we calculate everything in Kelvin. And 0 Kelvin is absolute, it's called, in German it's called the Nullpunkt, okay? It's the 0 point. And the third law states that you cannot reach 0 Kelvin, okay? Cannot. That's an A. You cannot reach 0 Kelvin. Why? Also, maybe too much into detail, because at a certain point, there's going to be quantum mechanics involved in it, okay? The spins of electrons, mechanics of electrons, how they're moving, how they're projected. That's a little too much. So for now, just remember it as it's said, as it's given. You cannot reach 0 Kelvin, okay? Let's imagine, however, oh no, let's start first, because we actually can get very, very close to 0 Kelvin. Theoretically, you could get infinitely close. And people have come really close, okay? Because if you get super close to 0 Kelvin, okay, let's say we have like 0.8 Kelvin, okay? We should actually do it like this. Temperature, and this is Kelvin. Certain elements will start to behave very weird. Helium is a very good example, okay? What helium is going to do, if it's very cold, it's probably around like 2 or 3 Kelvin, I believe. If you put liquid helium, at that point it turns liquid. Our little Nobel gas that makes the voice sound funny, like, haha, you know? Exactly. As soon as you have that one in a liquid state, it moves in a way that we don't actually fully understand yet, because it starts to have no inner friction. Okay, so it moves up the wall and just around the glass. There are actually experiments where people thought first that liquid helium just moved through the glass, but it turned out it has no friction, no inner friction, so it moves up the walls, down the glass again. Very weird behavior, not completely understood yet, but that's how it is. But what happens theoretically if we have 0 Kelvin, okay? Temperature 0 Kelvin. We have no temperature, that means we have no movement at all, okay? No molecules move, no atoms move, nothing moves anymore. This would mean the end of time. You cannot measure it as well, because you would put energy into it. So it would start to move again. But this also means that if there's a space in universe that has 0 Kelvin, that means that it would need to be everywhere at the same time, because if there's a space with 0 Kelvin and another one without 0 Kelvin, we know direction of warmth. Now it goes into the cold one and everything would move. So if there's ever a point in the universe where there is 0 Kelvin, this will probably mean that the whole universe has 0 Kelvin and everything will stop. There's nothing going to be and nothing ever will be ever again. This is a very weird concept to think about, but if nothing can move, nothing can be. No. So yes, this is the third law of thermodynamics. And now you know how to sound smarter than you actually are. 0th law, equilibrium. First law, no energy exchange in a different system and in a sealed system. Second law is the direction of flow. Third law, 0 Kelvin can't be reached. So the next one is going to be acids and bases. Yes. Somebody said something. Oh, great explain. I'm sorry. I'm really bad with the questions. You had questions before.
All
Or
right,
no, just
so
now.
at
Yeah.
the start of this topic, you said entropy. I think that
Yes.
means like the breaking down of something, right? Like the undoing of something. So,
Now, entropy actually means the order of something. So
so
the higher the entropy, the less ordered it is. If
all right,
it's if it doesn't have a lot of entropy, it's very orderly and very orderly in very specific
so
places and stuff. And the more entropy, the unorderly it is.
yeah,
The more unorderly. Yeah, it sounds very weird, but you have to think about. Let's say you have the room of your kids or something, okay? And low entropy would be every toy in their place. But if the room is all messy, that's very high entropy. Everything is somewhere and everything is messy and going around. But entropy is another very different topic that we could dive into. Um,
I see. Thank you.
it's very like you can calculate entropy with the so-called Gibbs energy, which is like a oh no, okay, let's stop here.
All
Uh,
right,
because we
thank
can
you,
talk
Aaron.
about it later. Talk about it later, actually, if you want. So next one is acids and oh wait, was that greatest change or Obi-Wan Jacoby? Because somebody else had a
It was me.
question as well. Anyone else has a
Why
question?
must you have given me an? It was me,
Oh, okay.
Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Why must you have given me a new fear that if at some point, if anywhere in the universe, 0 Kelvin, this universe just stops? That's terrifying, man.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It couldn't be just at one point. So it would have to be everywhere at the same time, probably. Because otherwise, if it was like 1 cubic meter, that's almost reaching a 0 Kelvin, warm energy would go into there and it's gonna make it a little hotter again before it even reaches 0 Kelvin.
Wait,
So
that's kind
it's
of like Final Fantasy VIII's final boss's goal. Stop all time, make it all just one thing and not exist anymore, more or less.
exactly that, to be honest. That's the third law of thermodynamics. So that should not be possible. But biggest swords and tiny blonde guys also work there. So
That sounds like a black hole. You know what those are?
yeah. But black hole is very hard topic as well because we don't actually know what's in there yet, and it bends relativity, and it even captures light. So because of the gravity in there, it makes everything very convoluted, very complicated to talk about it. But just think of it. It has such a massive. It's so much mass in such a small point that it has a lot of gravity, and it captures everything, even space time, and curves everything around it. So everyone's having theories about a different universe in there, or getting spaghettied in here, and or just getting crushed. We can't really say that yet, but maybe at some point.